He was once one of the highest quarterback recruits of his class. As a redshirt freshman at Florida State, he led the Noles to a 10-win season, including an Orange Bowl victory over Michigan. Years ago, it looked like he was the future face of the Florida State Seminoles, but it didn't turn out that way. Just a few years after that great freshman campaign, he was dismissed from Florida State and enrolled at Hampton University. Now his college career is over, and the NFL draft went by without a single team giving him a phone call. So how can a quarterback that was so highly touted, that saw so much success at the beginning of his career, go from being completely out of football in only a matter of a few years? Here's what happened to Deondre Francois. Now before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're brand new to the channel and love college football. Make sure to click that notification bell also so you never miss an upload. It all started back when Deondre Francois was just a kid. His mother decided to move him and his siblings from Little Haiti, a neighborhood in Miami, to Orlando. It was at this point in which he found his love for football. At a young age, Francois could throw the ball further than any of his friends. He tried out for Pop Warner and was named the quarterback after only his first tryout. Francois' love for the game only grew as he continued to play while growing up. He attended Olympia High School in Orlando, where he was the starting quarterback. During his sophomore and junior seasons, Francois threw for nearly 3,200 yards with 29 touchdowns. It was at this point where he began drawing interest from programs such as Clemson, Florida, and Auburn. Ultimately, Francois decided to stay close to home, and he committed to Florida State prior to the start of his senior season. Overall, Francois was the number 66 prospect in the country, according to 247 Sports. He was the 11th ranked prospect in the state of Florida, and he was ranked the number 3 pro-style quarterback in the country. However, for his senior year, Francois wouldn't stay at Olympia. He decided to transfer to one of the biggest and best schools where he could improve his talent, the IMG Academy. During the senior campaign, he threw for 1,500 yards and 18 touchdowns. In addition to being only a 4-hour drive away from home, Francois said his decision to attend Florida State came down to the atmosphere. In 2013, they just come off a championship. There was a winning atmosphere there, and that's what I wanted to be around. Jimbo Fisher's coaching was on another level. I wanted to play for a coach that would be strict on me and put me in the right position to be successful. However, Francois' time would have to wait, as he sat behind former Notre Dame quarterback Everett Golson in 2015. Golson would go down after 9 games, and Sean McGuire would come in to finish the season. Florida State finished the year 10-3 with a loss in the Peach Bowl to Houston. Now, with Golson being gone after 2015, it looked like it would be a battle between Francois and senior Sean McGuire as to who would win the starting quarterback job for the 2016 campaign. Now, there ended up never being a competition because McGuire suffered a fractured ankle in the Peach Bowl that required surgery, and it looked like Francois' spot was nearly locked up. Leading up to the season, Francois and head coach Jimbo Fisher's relationship began to grow. He was a perfectionist, so that made me become a perfectionist, and that really took my game to another level. I was a reflection of him. We were always together. He got on me all the time and really broke me down, but would build me back up. That made me mentally strong for the game. That relationship carried over to the field, where Francois quickly emerged as one of the best freshman quarterbacks in the country. In the first game of the 2016 season, Francois threw for over 400 yards and 2 touchdowns, while adding 60 yards on the ground in a 45-34 victory over Ole Miss. Over the course of the season, Florida State got blown out by Louisville and suffered close losses to Clemson and North Carolina, losing by a total of 5 points in those 2 games. After the close loss to Clemson, the Noles sat at 5-3 on the season. Then, Francois took over, leading his team to 5 straight victories, closing out the year at 10-3. Over those final 5 games, Francois threw for 1,200 yards with 9 passing touchdowns. He also ran for 100 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He defeated NC State, Boston College, and Syracuse, and then capped off his freshman season by defeating Florida and then Michigan in the Orange Bowl. For the season, he threw for 3,350 yards and 20 touchdowns. It was the 5th highest single-season passing total in program history. During the year, Francois was named ACC Rookie of the Week 4 times. He capped off his season by being named the ACC Offensive Rookie of the Year and the ACC Rookie of the Year. Now, the Noles were coming off back-to-back 10-win seasons. They had a young quarterback who looked like he'd be ready to take the next step in his sophomore year and hopefully guide the Noles back to the ACC title game. Things were looking great in Tallahassee. After a highly optimistic offseason, the Noles were ranked number 3 in the nation and opened the season against Alabama. It was one of the most highly anticipated games of the entire 2017 college football season. The Seminoles had ACC and potentially national championship aspirations, and Deondre Francois had Heisman aspirations. And it would all come to an end before the first game of the season ended. Deondre Francois tore his left patella tendon after being brought down awkwardly. He'd exit the game, and Francois would be out for the remainder of the season. After being the ACC Rookie of the Year, Francois didn't even get one game under his belt in 2017. The Noles turned to James Blackman, who couldn't lead Florida State to another 10-win season. The season was a forgetful one as they finished 7-6 while winning only 3 ACC games. Not only would Francois have to overcome adversity and fully recover from his season-ending injury, he'd have to do it with a brand new head coach. Jimbo Fisher, who Francois had developed a great relationship with, was no longer at the program. Florida State moved on from Fisher, bringing in Willie Taggart from Oregon. After a long and uphill battle of an offseason, Deondre Francois was named the starting quarterback for the 2018 season. Things immediately got off to a bad start. They dropped the opening game of the year against Virginia Tech and were almost upset by Samford at home in Game 2. The following week, Florida State lost by 23 to Syracuse, sitting at 1-2 on the season. Through the first 3 games, Francois had 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions and had negative 16 rushing yards. Things picked up for him in Florida State as they won 3 of their next 4 games. During that 4-game stretch, Francois threw for 1,100 yards with 10 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, all while completing 65% of his passes. They would drop the next 3 games to Clemson, NC State, and Notre Dame, and then the final game of the season to Florida, as Florida State finished the season 5-7, the first losing season for the program since 1976. Francois finished the season with 2,700 passing yards to go along with 15 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. He only had 16 rushing yards for the season. Now, at the time, little did Francois know, he had played his final snap as a member of Florida State. 2 months after the season ended, Francois called police asking to remove a woman from his home who was destroying his belongings. However, since the woman had legally established residency at the apartment complex, there was nothing the police could do. During the incident, the girl told police she was pregnant. The woman accused Francois of picking her up, throwing her to the ground, and cutting her arm while trying to drag her out of the house. Francois told police he tried to carry her like a hug outside to prevent her from breaking anything else. A few months passed and Francois' name was in the news again, as police seized 17 grams of marijuana during a raid of his apartment. He was charged with a misdemeanor possession, but he wasn't arrested. Instead, he was offered the chance to be in a pre-trial diversion program where the charge would be dropped if he did community service and avoided any kind of criminal activity. Then, later, a third incident occurred, and this was officially strike 3 for Florida State. His ex-girlfriend uploaded a post to Instagram where it sounded like someone was being hit. There was no video, it was just audio. Now, she then later came out and said, "The sounds you hear in the video are me throwing things and hitting him. Deondre had never struck me with his hand or fist, he has never bruised me, I just wanted closure and attention from him after we broke up, but I couldn't get it. The only way to get his attention was through spiteful actions." However, Jordan James of 247 Sports first reported that the post was falsified and the woman's Instagram account was hacked. Her sister later published a post saying, "The statement that was posted from my sister's page was not her, she has been hacked." Now, it didn't matter what had happened or not, the damage had already been done, and Deondre Francois was dismissed from the Florida State football team. Here's what head coach Willie Taggart had to say about the situation. "Last night, I informed Deondre Francois that he is no longer a member of the Florida State football program. As we build a new culture and foundation for FSU football, we have high expectations for all of our student athletes and will not shy away from those high standards of conduct. We are moving forward as a program." It was time for Francois to decide where he could continue his football career. Originally, the plan was for him to stay in state and go to Florida Atlantic University. Now, at this point, scholarships had already been handed out among the top Division I programs, so it was likely Francois would have to take a harder look at where he could potentially play. Schools were interested in him, such as Tennessee State, North Carolina A&T, and Grambling State. Ultimately, Francois made his decision and opted to play ball at Hampton University. Here's what Francois had to say about his decision to commit to Hampton. "Hampton had a different atmosphere than anywhere I'd ever been. I was looking to go somewhere that was going to help me be a better person, and I felt like Hampton had a lot of good vibes around the team, the students, and the overall school in general." Although going from a program like Florida State to a program like Hampton could be a culture shock, Francois used it as an opportunity to help his teammates both on and off the field. He spent his time with coaches discussing football and going in depth on play calls. "I got a chance to mature, to really be a coach on and off the field. I got a chance to humble myself and really understand that no one is bigger than the game." Francois threw for 2,500 yards and 26 touchdowns while with the Pirates last year. Now, though his numbers were solid, they didn't result in wins, as Hampton finished the season 5-7, winning only one. Though his numbers were solid, they didn't result in wins, as Hampton finished the season 5-7, winning only one conference game all year. This is what he had to say following the season. Rome wasn't built in a day. No team just randomly goes from a losing season to undefeated in 1 year, and a program revival isn't going to happen overnight. Football hasn't been the culture at Hampton for a number of years. Lately, it's been track and basketball. Although Francois had one final year of college eligibility, he elected to enter the 2020 NFL Draft. His first stop was in Daytona, Florida, with renowned trainer Tom Shaw. Now, Shaw is known for training the likes of NFL legends such as Tom Brady, Deion Sanders, and Michael Vick. Shaw's appeal to Francois is easy to see, and he wanted to train with the best in order to become one of the best. This past January, Francois traveled nearly 5,000 miles to Hawaii to compete in the Hula Bowl, a postseason college football all-star game. The bowl features players from different teams, divisions, and even different countries. Francois played well, leading his team to a 23-7 victory. Following the win, he returned to Shaw for more work. Now, Francois had planned to throw during Hampton's Pro Day in mid-March before it was canceled due to the coronavirus pandemic. He also had workouts planned at the HBCU Combine in Miami and was going to participate in Maryland's Pro Day, including local Pro Days for the Miami Dolphins and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was angry and bummed about it, but he knew that he wasn't the only one affected by it. Francois had teams scouting him in Hawaii, but because of the cancellations, he had to send videos to teams. Well, the NFL draft came and went, and no team gave him an opportunity. I want to, and I know I can play on the highest level. My film speaks for itself. If a team gives me the opportunity, I'm going to give them everything, just like I've done everywhere I've ever gone. Now, although he was dismissed from the team, he still went back and graduated from Florida State in 2019 with a bachelor's degree in social science. In December, he finished at Hampton with a master's in sports administration. Francois said he's always loved to teach, and that Jimbo Fisher was the one who helped him realize that. Francois wants to give back and hopefully spread his knowledge and what he's learned towards the youth. He's volunteered his time at the Ronald McDonald House in addition to assisting various homeless shelters and meeting with middle school kids. I've always liked to give back to the community. It started when I got hurt in 2017. I went around to almost every elementary school and middle school in Tallahassee and did a tour for anti-bullying. When I came home to Orlando, now in 2020, I went to middle schools just talking to the students and letting them know what I've been through, how sports helped me, to listen and to respect their parents and teachers, all the small things that make a person who they are. With the Ronald McDonald House, I like doing things like that because it helps me understand how blessed I am as an individual. Seeing stuff like that helps me grind harder and understand that somebody always has it worse than you. Although his football future is currently on pause and there's uncertainty as to whether or not he'll ever play a snap again, the biggest thing he's focused on doesn't have anything to do with football. According to Francois, he wants to be able to provide for his family like never before. He says setting up the future for his kids and grandkids and being able to break a generational curse while starting something new with his family is what he lives for.